Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 17th of May, comes to you from London. The dollar climbed very sharply the last couple of days, just pausing for breath at the moment, but holding on to those gains, so still looking pretty strong with upside targets on the short term chart, no downside targets. So, dollar strength is very much the theme at the moment. Euro weaker. Still, and we've got fresh news on the Italians possibly wanting to leave the EU, so and that is causing more turmoil for the euro this morning. So, dollar strength, euro weakness. We're seeing the dollar stronger against the Japanese yen as well, making now a very clear transition to medium-term bullish. So we're now seeing dollar strength really across the board. Sterling weaker again, just sitting at this 135 mark against the dollar, and the euro is weaker against sterling, so sterling is strengthening against the euro. Against the Swiss franc, the euro is sterling is actually a little bit weaker, and against the Aussie dollar also a bit weaker. So we're just seeing sterling being dragged down as well. Bitcoin sitting at $8,300, so actually just still bearish in that short-term chart, and the medium-term chart just struggling. So we do have an activated downside target now on the medium-term chart of 6,175. So that is actually 25% downside potential for Bitcoin. So we could sink lower before we fully recover on the cryptocurrency. Looking at the S&P 500 index, we're up. Overnight, we were just up just under 0.5%, so we are just seeing that continuing. The same with the Nasdaq. Up also. So US stocks just continuing their recovery, but albeit a very slow recovery and not yet managing to make a new high. So we're seeing that on the Dow as well, struggling to get through on the medium term chart. And if we look at the Russell we see here, it is actually just nudging new all-time highs, so that broadly US stocks are recovering. The future for the S&P 500 is down just about 0.2%, so does suggest we might see a lower opening. The Nasdaq E-mini down over 1/3%, so we may see the US open lower today. UK market is fairly flat, we see at the moment, and we're seeing much the same on the 250 mid caps as well. The DAX is up this morning, just up 0.2%, but really very flat the last few days, waiting for direction from the US market really. If we look at the CAC Quarante, we are just nudging again new all-time highs here, but just struggling to really move much higher, again waiting for direction from the US. If we look at Japanese stocks, just recovering slightly there, and the same is true of Hang Seng Index, up just under zero 0.4, well, it was down slightly overnight, so we are just seeing it struggling. And in fact, really since February, we've been going very much sideways for the Hang Seng. And my main concern in global stocks has been the Chinese market, down 0.5% overnight, still medium-term bearish, and risking making a long-term transition to bearish. The S&P 500, the Sensex index is continuing to rise, but again off 0.4%, and the Australian market down 0.2%, just giving up, starting to give up some of the gains that it's made. Brent crude continues to move higher, now at $79.40, so we are just seeing here Brent starting to nudge, making new highs, so looking very strong indeed. Not far now to break that $80 mark. And WTI sitting at 71.67. So the spread opening out there, it's now about $8, so we are just seeing the spread between the two opening. US nat gas sitting fairly static at $2.82. And if we look at gold, gold has really sold off very much the last few days. We're just sitting at this 1288 level at the moment. So we're bearish medium term. Remember, we did that last year. We had the sell-off in the summer last year. We had a couple of sell-offs where we went bearish medium term and then recovered. So this is where we were last year. The low point was the end of May, and then we had the ascent in June. Will we do the same this year? We'll have to see. We had another period in November when we were below as well. So even though we're medium-term bearish, we need to be cautious, but the long-term chart's still very bullish. And on the point and figure charts, we've still got upside targets. Silver is just down slightly this morning again. Same with gold, and bearish on all three time frames at the moment. So the outlook not quite as clear for silver. US 10-year Treasury yields rising even higher, and we see the week here. This is the strongest week we've seen in a very long time. 2016, we saw a week stronger than this, but this is looking very strong indeed. And we're now sitting at 311, 312. So we are really pushing higher there on the 10-year yield. Looking at German bonds, Italian bonds selling off very heavily this morning, as you might expect, with the news that the Italians might contemplate leaving the European Union. We're seeing here German bonds lower as well. So bond markets generally just weakening. Taking a look at some of the tech stocks in the US, looking at Apple. Apple was actually up strongly yesterday, so holding on to its all-time highs. Amazon also up overnight. So the tech giants generally doing pretty well. Google up, but nowhere near as much. It's still continuing to lag, up 0.2%. Facebook is actually down just over 0.5%, so it's just struggling to make new highs as well. And Microsoft is also just looking down very slightly, down 0.2%, so it was a laggard there too, but still looking bullish on all three time frames. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.